Hey, my name is Corey. I'm with AMETEK Prestolite Power, and I'm going to teach you a couple basic checks that you can do inside of one of the AMETEK Eclipse 2 chargers. The first thing that I always do is I make sure that power is off, and I often also disconnect it physically. And if I can't disconnect it physically, usually what I'll do is I will remove these fuses. And this acts as a way to give me an extra air gap of protection just in case someone decides to come over here and turn that thing on when I got my hands inside. The next thing we'll do is remove the side panels. As you can see, we have two bolts here. Both of these sides are identical, and these bolts I've already removed. So what you do is press on it, pull it right off. I usually put it on top, and then I put my hardware and stuff up here so it doesn't get lost all over the ground. Next thing you do is grab your multimeter, and you want to make sure that you have a diode setting on your meter, because we will be using this to determine whether our internal components are good or bad. The next thing I do is I open it up, check our fuses, and for these you want a dead short, obviously, because if you have any open, that means more than likely a component or a primary board on the inside actually failed. And now that we have our side panel off, we can also get to our DC fuse, which is right there. And that is also a dead short, which is a good thing, because the fuse is supposed to be short. The next major thing you want to check is your input rectifiers and your output rectifiers. These are your most common points of failure, is your rectifiers when you're converting AC to DC. That's usually where all the heat is. These things are often tied to a heat sink, so keep that in mind. Right here we're going to check our primary board input. Remember, we have it on diode scale, and we will check reverse polarity. Notice I have the positive on the negative and the negative on the positive. And what I'm reading is 0.734. This is a good reading. So this guy is good, and what you're measuring with this is the IGBTs across here. After testing the primary board, the next test that you want to do is your input rectifier, and that is located here. It's a very small piece, so actually what we recommend is taking a reading from your input terminal block and right here, because those are the same points as just testing right on this, but you have a lot more space to work with when you go from there to there. Do keep in mind that the terminal block itself has 3 different lines going to it, so you'll want to go to each one of those lines, because each one of those lines corresponds to one of these lines. And there's your output going down to these. So what you want to do to test this input rectifier is go reverse polarity, that's positive to the negative, and go to each one of these 3 lines. And you should read about 0.45 on them. And what these should read is around 0.45 all the way down. What you don't want to see is a dead short. And we do not see that. So this input rectifier is good. Next thing we're going to test here are our output rectifiers. They're located behind these bus bars mounted on this heatsink. And the way you want to test these, like any diodes, is you want to put your negative on your positive. This is actually your battery positive lead coming off. You want to put your negative on the positive and measure reverse polarity. And we should be getting, let me show you here, around 0.3. And this is a reading you'll get either way. First way is here, next way is there. And it's actually reading the exact same reading because it's only reading across one of these. These are actually connected together through the inside of the transformer. So if you wanted to test for an open output rectifier, you'd have to isolate these. To do that, you remove this bolt, pull the transformer strap away from this bus bar, and the two will be isolated from each other, and you'll be able to get an accurate reading of each individual one. So those are the basic checks for the Eclipse 2 charger series. Your input fuses, output fuses on each side, your primary board reading, your input rectifier reading, and your output rectifier reading. Hopefully this will help you guys troubleshoot some things out in the field.